Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to House Divided on a Monday. Happy MLK Day here from Orange Bloods Live. Hope you're off work. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you are staying warm wherever you might be. The white stuff is apparently coming to Texas, so I hear. I still have doubts, Chad. My wife keeps talking about 5 or 6 inches, and I've seen the forecast, and it says snow showers. I never believe it, ever.
It's a tough one. Like you and I believe these things exist in NFL playoff games, but as far as at our house, it is a little tough. Even when
but only north of like the Mason-Dixon line.
Right, exactly. When I see pictures, Catch, from my own house of when it snowed or iced over or whatever, there's still a little part of my brain that doesn't believe it was real. There's still a little
it's
part
like a
of
fantasy or a dream or a nightmare. Right. You know, it's somewhere in that realm. Look, we've got national championship game tonight. As a matter of fact, before we get too deep into this, like, comment, subscribe to the page, all those things. The sponsor of the show, Texas Card House. Tonight, Texas Card House Social in North Austin, off Anderson Mill and 183. The game will go on. The watch party will go on. It's a little bit different. The weather, like, we just have to acknowledge the elephant in the room that at some point tonight, there's expected to be snow showers. I'm not going to make the trip because by the time the game is over and by the time I would get on the road and start heading back, there's a very good chance that weather will hit. And so, like, it's taking me out of action. And so, you know, like, there's an acknowledgement that there probably won't be as big of an Orange Bloods contingent. I know Anwar is not going to be able to make it now. But I mean, the party goes on, the game goes on, the watch party goes on. If you want to see the game at the most badass screen in Austin, then go to the Texas Card House Social. Again, it's still going on, but we just got to acknowledge that, like, the pending weather, which have they already canceled school for you guys?
Yes. Obviously, today being MLK Day, there was no school. But yes, Tuesday school has been canceled for both my daughter in Elgin and my wife who works for Manor. So, yeah, those two are already done.
They've already done Tuesday and Wednesday here in the Woodlands. Like,
that's what my wife told me. My wife's like, I think they did Tuesday and Wednesday already in the Conroe area for Catch. I'm like, what the hell?
When my kids told me that, I was like, no, man. No.
Dude,
no.
These kids don't know, Catch. We used to have to wake up. I turned on the radio in Waxahachie, and I had to have a local dude tell me.
At like 6:30 in the morning. You're like,
yeah,
come on, baby, give me the news. Give it to me.
6:30 in the morning, I'd turn on, and I'd listen to the voice of the Indians and this other dude. I can't think of his. Oh, Ken was the voice, and there was some other dude. And I'd wait intently, and they would tell us that Waxahachie had closed, and they'd go school by school. And then when I heard the name of my elementary school, we had a party. But that's how we used to have to do it.
Those were the best of times.
That's right.
When parents didn't know until 30 minutes before they had to leave for work whether or not their kids needed childcare that day.
Dude, that is it. Yeah, so in my case, Catch, I'll just tell everybody, I got a good, 30, 35-minute drive to get to TCH. It involves overpasses and it involves all that. So I'm gonna be frank with everybody right now. Y'all know my feelings already, but here's the extended version. I'm just not risking that for the Buckeyes and the Irish. Sorry.
He hates them both. Like, he just doesn't like their uniforms.
Oh,
so he doesn't like them as a trickle down to the blandness of the uniforms.
Yeah. Somebody asked me literally yesterday, who you rooting for? And I'm like, nobody. I'm not rooting.
The ugly. He wants to see Oregon and Auburn do it again.
I do.
Remember how bad that game was?
It was terrible. Yeah, right. I don't care if it's. I want it to be that awful and that terrible. I looked up the time frames. Either Ohio State will get rid of 3,661 days of no title, or Notre Dame will go 13,167 days between titles.
I'm rooting for Notre Dame.
I have never said those words out loud, nor will I.
I just don't like. I don't like Ohio State more than I don't like Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm slightly the other way.
You're talking. Look,
but I got
that game in 2005 in Columbus. I thought I was going to jail that night. It took Sean Adams having the late Sean Adams, rest in peace.
Absolutely.
It took Sean Adams making a business decision while having the N-bomb thrown at him repeatedly in front of an Ohio State frat house. You know what, Catch? We are not going to jail tonight. We're also not going to the hospital. So we're going to stay in the car, and I'm going to swallow my pride, and we're going to go back to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
But if Sean had said anything other than that, like I already hate the Buckeyes because of that. That like I just they're just vile. So yeah. I can't it's like, okay, I don't know. It's like picking a terrible terrorist and a slightly less terrible terrorist.
Yeah.
Like, well, he's a terrorist, but they give money to the Girl Scouts. Oh, right. Terrorist with a heart as opposed to a terrorist with no heart. That's how I'm kind of looking at it tonight.
I know.
I don't want either of these two teams to win.
And plus,
Notre Dame is less of the devil than Ohio State.
I got you. Plus, if you're a Texas fan, there is a little feeling. We've already had a little feeling in the chat of, that you were in that game. You were in the semifinal. You did not get blown out. And there's got to be a little feeling today of, damn, it's that close. It was that close. I'm not saying it was one thing that needed to happen, but you were on a drive to tie that ball game. That's an extra frustrating element. I
think Ohio State's going to win this game by 17.
Yeah, I've had a 10-17 thought in my head for tonight.
Because the thing about this game, Notre Dame is not built. Ohio State's been a fast starter, not in the Texas game so much, but in this little run, they've been a fast starting team. You wouldn't really worry. If Texas had fallen behind 14-0 to Ohio State, you would have just thought, okay, well, Quinn's going to throw it around a lot now. And it wouldn't have been ideal, but you wouldn't have thought Quinn wasn't capable of going 2-minute offense and let's go. You might actually think to yourself, maybe that's the best thing that Quinn and Texas could do. That is not the best thing that Notre Dame can do. They want this. They need to drag Ohio State into the deep waters and then drown them in the fourth quarter. Yeah, and I just feel like Ohio State's not going to do. That's not the game we're going to see tonight.
By the end of the game, Notre Dame needs there to be one clear message. You weren't thinking of the right Jeremiah. That's what they need at the end of this game, where it's like, oh, y'all didn't know about our number 4? Y'all don't remember that run at the goal line? Y'all don't remember our guy, our college version of Saquon Barkley that can just go for 99, in a blink? That's the one you miss,
man.
That's the one you miss. That's what Notre Dame hopes by the end of the game.
I think that the Eagles are getting this version of Saquon Barkley, for the record.
Good grief. I'm telling you.
What the hell? That guy had a major injury. He was never supposed to be that good again.
Catch, you've seen Die Hard 2, right?
Yes.
The scene in Die Hard 2 where they're driving snowmobiles at breakneck speed on that ice, that's what Saquon looked like to me yesterday. Where it's like, every time I watch that movie, I'm like, fellas, I know y'all are all terrorists, but that feels dangerous. Like, that's a very fast speed for that. That dude took off. To be able to put your foot in the ground and get speed, he got up over 20 miles an hour running on ice and snow. It's crazy.
I think he is the MVP of the league. I do. I know it's a quarterback award, and I get it, right? Like, if you were to give it to Josh Allen or even Lamar Jackson, how could you begrudge those players? But Saquon Barkley, is having as good of a running back season as I've ever seen. The
early touchdown catch, when Hurts faked that ball to Barkley and then took off running, it would be like if Vince could have faked to Vince back in the day. Like, that was about as effective a run-pass option. They crashed on Saquon so hard. Hurts was like, oh, this is awesome on the other side. I mean, it was.
He's having an Emmitt Smith kind of season where he posts a huge astronomical season. He's carrying the team because Jalen Hurts just always feels like a guy in these biggest games.
Mm-hmm.
They won yesterday, like 65 yards passing. Of course they did.
Yeah. And this is Rhett's point's interesting, etching himself in that top 12 running back of all time territory. The thing he's doing, Rhett, is they're getting runs of such length, Catch, that when they start looking at the history book, they go, oh, yeah, that hadn't happened since 47. It's like, huh? The 40s. Like, it's just stupid.
He is, if he completes the year with a championship, by the way, I have not yet processed Washington, Philly in the NFC Championship game. I believe they call the Monday stage of this denial. I'm bathing in it. Bathing in it, Chad.
Right here. The tear.
And look, I know we got to get to Arch because we're 11 minutes into the video and we haven't talked about the thing that we teased because there's a lot to talk about. But Texas A&M gets I don't know, commitment. Maybe he's already signed. I'm not sure. Amari Niblack, Texas tight end. Is going to Texas A&M. Not a shock. When he went into the portal late last week, he was going to visit Texas A&M first. And given where they are on the calendar and if they want to get him in for the spring, it kind of felt like wherever you go first at this time of the year is kind of where you're going to go. A&M gets a good but maybe mercurial player. Like, I don't know. I think he would have started at Texas this year, I think, but maybe not. It kind of depends on how fast Jordan Washington goes. I think he's an NFL player, but he wasn't this year. So it feels like a good pickup for the Aggies. The Longhorns would have liked to have kept him. But I don't know how to describe him to A&M fans if they're listening, wondering what our reaction on the show will be to Niblack going to A&M. It's like, feels like a good pickup, but if you tell me at the end of the year he has 50 catches, I don't know that I would be completely surprised. If you tell me he finishes the year with 7 catches, I definitely won't be surprised. So I don't know what the hell I even think of Amari Niblack.
Yeah, the lead number for a tight end for A&M last year was 21 for Watson, and Niblack had 5 for Texas last year. So where if I just put the over-under at 20 and a hook for catches for forget about Niblack for a second, Catch, the lead tight end in receiving.
But that's in a Colin Klein offense. That
A&M.
shouldn't be the case.
Exactly. And so if I put it at 20 and a half, what does Colin Klein do with that? That's, this is now year 2 where Colin Klein, I would argue, still hasn't fully explained to everybody what that offense is.
I thought they played like 3 tight ends on the field and stuff at times at Kansas State. Not with the Aggies in year 1.
We still don't know what they want to do. We still don't know what, we don't know. We really don't know what that offense is. What does it think it does well? What's its strength? They just, for different reasons too. The quarterback stuff got in the way and whatever. But yeah, the idea of Niblack is interesting. I just don't know if the reality of Niblack is going to work through the whole thing. Colin Klein's got to figure out how to make it that way.
Here's the thing that this is going to sound like a kind of crappy thing to say about a guy, but I've literally asked you if we think this guy's going to go to an NFL training camp this summer, and we think there's a chance. So, this isn't a complete insult, but because I think we think that Juan Davis is a good player.
Yes.
But Amari Niblack couldn't get Juan Davis off the field. Yeah. And
because I think when it comes right down to it, when you need a tight end to block, Davis is going to give you that. Niblack needs to show he can do that.
Yeah, but on the first play of the game against Ohio State on offense, that was a pass thrown to Juan Davis.
Yep, absolutely.
And it went basically nowhere. And Niblack was brought in to be the guy that if on the first play of the game against Ohio State in a national semifinal, that was supposed to be Amari Niblack catching that ball.
Mm-hmm.
And that he was never a factor in that way. It doesn't mean that he can't get there. Clearly, Texas thought he had upside or they wouldn't have even brought him in. And they brought him in thinking he would play a lot this year. But he didn't. So I think that, if you're the Aggies, get that kid in the spring. Absolutely. He's got a lot of work to do because if the level is to get where Texas was this season. Well, he wasn't at that. Like, he was a passenger on a team that went to a national semifinal and not a guy who made any impact at all. He was a complete non-factor and kind of shocking. But again, Texas would have kept him. They did not want to lose him. His decision to leave, it wasn't like Texas ushered him out the door. That was his call. One source I asked about it described it as the kid made a mistake, or he said the kid was dumb. I don't know. I have to go back and look at exactly what it was, but they basically thought that he wouldn't end up in a better situation, probably wouldn't get as much NIL money. They just didn't completely get it, especially with Arch Manning about to be the quarterback. And whatever we want to say of 5 catches, that would still be the most on the Texas tight end position going into the season. He would be a guy with a little bit of experience. And as we break into the Arch Manning portion of today's show, Chad, it's one less weapon for him to have in the spring. We're going to have so many Arch Manning conversations, but this one today kind of goes in a couple of different directions, but I think it really focuses on 2 parts. And the first one is, it's here. Guys,
yep.
I know Quinn kind of took the air out of the room a little bit last week because we were still on the heels of talking about the loss to Ohio State. And then it was waiting for Quinn Ewers to make the decision. And then once he left, it was about kind of, putting a ribbon and bow on one of the better quarterback careers that any Texas quarterback has ever had. But if unofficially, the Arch Manning era and experience is on. And I think Steve Sarkeesian, although maybe not a big deal, he gets the extension this weekend. I don't think he was headed off to the NFL, but I have always maintained that dude is not going anywhere until the Arch Manning experience is completed. Steve Sarkeesian did not put the time in, the sweat equity in, recruiting Arch Manning, getting him to Texas, keeping him on campus for 2 years, satisfied while not playing, only to get that kid finally on the cusp of being whatever he's going to be, only to not finish it out. So I never was concerned that Steve Sarkeesian was going anywhere. I just believe I think Steve Sarkeesian could be offered the NFL dream of his lifetime. And he'd go on and have he would always wonder, what would I and we have done together with Arch Manning? So here we are. I don't know that Texas fans are fully prepared, Chad, for what it means. They now have the most recognizable player in all of college athletics. That sounds like maybe a little bit of hyperbole, but I don't know that it is. We're talking about a guy that was getting front page lead headlines on websites like ESPN.com for stories that had nothing to do with, like, his performance in the spring game last year led SportsCenter. And he wasn't the starting quarterback.
Only spring game anybody talked about.
The only spring he was talked about on First Take. Nobody else got mentioned. And so it's one of the things that, as people have talked about the Quinn Ewers experience, and that, wait till he finds out what Quinn went through. I was like, wait, what world are you living? Wait, what did you just say? Because when Quinn Ewers throws 2 interceptions, the Austin market cares. If Arch Manning throws 2 interceptions in a game next year, the entire nation will obsess over it. It is a different level of notoriety and attention and buzz and cottage industries that, there are people who will do nothing but make clickbait articles of Arch Manning over the course of the next couple of years because clicks, engagement. So there's that. And I think that you got to just take a deep breath now, man. It's like are you an amusement park guy, Chad?
In large part, no, because I get sick on the roller coasters generally.
But if you do it,
I can do a little bit.
Like if you were going to Six Flags with the Shockwave and you were like, I don't like loop-de-loops.
Right.
But once you get on the roller coaster, you got to give in.
Right. No, you got to do it. You got to see if you can get through it. I would get through it, and then I would have to sit like an old man off to the side and recover.
You don't have to let go, right? I'm not saying
no, never let go.
I'm not off the bar and be that. No.
No, I'm not one of those idiots.
I'm saying once you're on it, you got to kind of like, as best you can, woo-saw it out. And I think Texas fans need to come to grips with the fact that we're going to see some crazy stuff. We're going to at least 10 times in this offseason have a random Georgia offers Arch Manning $10 million after the spring portal because the guy they have kind of sucks. No offense, but Gunnar Stockton's just a guy, and I have no idea how Georgia is in the position that they are in with that quarterback situation going into next year. So there's going to be, I'm telling you right now, we're going to get bananas stuff with Arch, and it's going to be asked about in the chat, and like, it's just going to be different. The other component of this, Chad, is I'd seen this in a couple of places.
Yeah. Before you set it up, let's reset here and let everybody know, because I don't see any super chats. I got a couple chats that we're going to get to. If y'all want in on the Arch discussion today, throw us a super chat. It'll go right to the top. Again, no OB watch party specifically tonight at TCH Social. They're open. They'll be there. They'll be open. But for the safety of everybody, we're going to not have catch drive to and from. And by the way, to Harish, who threw this in earlier, this is just kind of mean. We can do a makeup for the Texas basketball March Madness game. Harish, long way to go. Long way to go. But sure. In theory, we could do that. Just realize that. Now, if you want to just hang at the house and watch the game, we didn't give you the reminder earlier. Let's remind you about Hijack Poker, hijackpoker.com. Put that app on any device you want. Get your online poker game going on. Valid through the end of the month. That OB20 code. Get $20 in free play and get it going as soon as you can. Catch will be there. I guarantee you. And real quick, Catch, to get us started, ATX Bates regarding Arch. Texas fans are at the exact moment when you press the power button, I think that's supposed to be, for the first time after plugging in your Nintendo 64. Yeah, power button engaged, Arch Manning engaged.
I like that metaphor.
Yeah, it really is. It is that power button going. So I definitely have some thoughts on it, but go ahead and lay things out from the football side, because I think it's fantastic what you threw out in the 10 thoughts from the weekend.
Well, I think the Oklahoman did this in their Sunday sports section, and I'd seen somebody else do it the week before, and I thought, okay, well, that would be an interesting exercise. But it felt a little early because the national championship game hasn't been played. But once I saw it a couple times, I was like, okay, you know what? This is a thing. And a little bit like that old ice water bath challenge. Just like, people are doing it. I'm going to do it. So I ranked what I thought were the top quarterbacks in the SEC next season. And we talked a little bit about this a year ago or last week, because I mentioned to you that I thought there were two guys in Arch Manning and DJ Lagway that I just – neither of those two schools will trade their quarterbacks for anybody else in the country. And we were talking about, like, how many times has Texas been able to say they wouldn't trade their guy for anybody. So I did a list. And, you know, as we have that Arch Manning conversation, now that it's over – I have Arch Manning ranked as the best quarterback in the SEC going into the next season. I think Arch Manning was the best quarterback on the Texas team this season. I also don't think that Texas won a game this season that they couldn't have won with Arch Manning as their starting quarterback. In the end, Texas won every game that it was supposed to win. It didn't win any games that were like coin flip affairs. That's not what they did. They were mostly double-digit favorites all season long. They mostly handled their business.
So anytime, just to check, anytime Quinn would have made a badass throw that we'd go back and say, man, that was a great throw, you'd tell me each and every time Arch could have made that throw.
Well, no, but I don't think it's about matching throw for throw.
Okay.
I think it's about looking at Quinn Ewers' body of work and saying, could Arch Manning in totality have been better than a 149 quarterback efficiency rating, which is below the best of Sam Ehlinger? It's below the bet. It's 7 points below what Casey Thompson did in 2021. Texas did not get plus quarterback play. They didn't score more than 20 points in any game they played this season among the top 5 games other than the Clemson game. Georgia, Ohio State, Arizona State, A&M. The offense didn't score more than 20 points in any of those games. It's the downfall of the season, ultimately, was that in the biggest game against Ohio State, they scored 14 points. Like, you can say, well, Quinn played pretty well in that game. I guess they scored 14 points.
Right.
And he did commit a couple of pretty back-breaking turnovers. I think Arch Manning, the gamble that Sark didn't take, and I get it, because he knows that Arch Manning's family will not want to rush Arch into the NFL. It's the Manning way.
Right.
He's going to get 25 plus starts before he goes into the NFL, because that family thinks that for a 10-year starting quarterback in the NFL, that's the most valuable thing that one of those quarterbacks can enter the league with, that level of experience.
And with an expanded playoff, we can get you to 25 in a very different way now.
Yes. But it's going to take 2 seasons.
It will take 2, yeah.
And so I think he knows I've got this kid for 2025 and 2026, and he didn't ever have to ask the question of, if I don't play Arch this season, am I not going to have him in 2026? He never had to ask that question, which made it, I think, real easy for him to lean into Quinn Ewers and not have to make the call that Oklahoma did with Dylan Gabriel and Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, clock never started ticking.
And the thing is, you know why he didn't take the risk. And you know why the safe call, look, they got to a national semifinal, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, this is nitpicking. But the offense wasn't good enough. And I'm telling you right now, if you play Arch Manning, by the end of the season, that's the version you want. Lenore Sellers is a perfect example, Chad. The guy at the beginning of the season at South Carolina wasn't the same guy at the end of the year.
I can vouch for that.
At the end of the year, you wouldn't have even believed that was the same player from September.
No, by the end of the year, he was Donovan McNabb in his prime.
And you're going to have some growing pains with Arch. Like, that's going to happen. But Texas is so good that it might be a little bit like when Trevor Lawrence had growing pains as a young player. You survived them. They were scares more than they were devastating defeats that, young quarterbacks. Now they have to go on the road in Columbus. They have to go on the road in Athens. They have to go on the road in Gainesville. All top 9 teams on Andy Staples' preseason top 25 list that I saw earlier today. It's a daunting schedule in a lot of – those are – you could lose all 3 of those games, go 9-3 and miss the playoffs, and luck of the schedule bit you in the behind in a way that it didn't this year. But the question that Sark had to ask himself was, by the time we would get to January of 2025, is Arch now with, say, 8 starts at a point where he's just a much better player than Quinn Ewers? And if Texas had a 165 level quarterback instead of a 149 guy who actually played more in the best games this season, Quinn Ewers was a 130 guy consistently That's bad. That's not good. That's essentially, he's right at the level that Shane Buechele was playing at as a true freshman, or Sam Ehlinger was playing at as a true freshman in the biggest games. And even last week against Ohio State, Texas fans want to say, well, he was pretty good. Yeah, but statistically, non-subjective numbers that don't use words like pretty and good and damn good and like non-descriptive words. The data just says, wasn't good enough. You know what? Scoreboard indicated that too. If you have Arch Manning on the field at the end of the season, you probably don't get Arch for the next 2 seasons, but you might win a national championship this season. And I do think when we all see the version of Arch in 2025, and it just becomes abundantly clear he's better than Quinn Ewers, the what if question for going back to next year is always going to exist. What if you'd let him play against Vanderbilt and Arkansas and Florida and those games? You let him play through that, and the payoff, because Texas could have lost another game and still made the playoffs.
Right. I was going to say, you may have to ask yourself the question, what if it cost you the semifinal? You may have to ask that.
Well, that's what I mean. You have to ask yourself, if you're Texas, not playing what might have been the better guy at quarterback might have cost you the semifinal.
Yeah.
And because whatever you would say about how far Texas went into the season, you're not giving Quinn Ewers credit for that. You're not giving Quinn a ton of credit for the A&M win. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
In fact, he gets blamed for that game not being a blowout. It was Quinn Ewers' fault. Like, I hate to do that on a guy.
Yeah.
It was. That game became a game because Quinn made a couple of like killer mistakes in the red zone. Hold that for later.
Mm-hmm.
You get into the SEC championship game. He didn't perform anywhere near well enough. In the end, he ends up getting beat by a redshirt freshman that had never really played before. Gunnar Stockton outplayed Quinn Ewers in the second half. Not by much, but he got him in the end zone when Texas didn't. Then you get into the Arizona State game. Texas scored 17 offensive points. That game's a lot different if Silas Bolden doesn't have the punt return. And then against Ohio State, they scored 14 points. It was not anywhere close to a really good offense at the end of the season. They couldn't crack 20 points. And I just feel like Arch Manning is going to represent an upgrade, and I stand on the table for that. I think he's going to be. Now, I will say this. If DJ Lagway ends up being first team all SEC next year, and let's say Arch is second team, I can see that happening. I have an immense amount of respect for the talent that DJ Lagway has, and I think he's a future superstar in the sport. I think both Texas and Florida have potential Heisman winning quarterbacks at their disposal. And I don't think anybody else in the SEC has. You get beyond those two guys, and what we're talking about changes significantly. We might like the Garrett Nussmeyers of the world. There are levels to which I suppose different people will value those guys. Lenore Sellers, we mentioned him. Nico at Tennessee. To me, every single one of those schools would give up a lung to have Arch Manning and DJ Lagway be their quarterback. So, and that's not what Texas had this year. In fact, I don't know if that guy, maybe Cam Ward, maybe that's the guy. I don't know that I would trade Quinn for Shedeur Sanders. I really don't. I don't know that Shedeur Sanders went. There just weren't any quarterbacks that I really loved. I think, love me some Arch Manning and DJ Lagway.
I'm just checking the schedule here, Catch, and that game is, October 4th. It's 2 weeks after a bye. Texas has a weird bye in the first part of the schedule. They've got UTEP, a bye, and then Sam Houston. And then they go to Florida to start that weird October where there are no DKR games. Like DKR will be completely empty for the whole month of October, which is so bizarre. But it's
Give me
October
that
4th.
October schedule.
In October, Texas will play Florida and Gainesville, then Oklahoma, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State. No buys, 4 straight games, all on the road or in Dallas.
Okay.
So nothing, right? By the time they play Vanderbilt, it is literally November 1st back at home. So that's how the weird. So just
well, the good news is those final 2 games, Texas should win those games.
The Arkansas and A&M games.
But no. I meant in
the
October.
final 2 I just said. Yeah.
Mississippi State and Kentucky.
Yeah.
You'd hate for Kentucky and Mississippi State to be on the front end, and then Oklahoma and Florida be on the back end of a pretty if you're going to have a grueling on the road slate, you'd rather it end as easy as possible. And that's about as easy as possible as it will get. Florida and Oklahoma back to back.
Yeah. Florida and Oklahoma back to back. And then to end the season, it's Georgia, Arkansas, A&M back to back to back. And there's no bye in there either.
This team could really be better next season. And it might not just simply be reflected in the 1-loss margin. Like it just, this is for everybody that would have complained last year about the schedule for Texas. Oh, they didn't play anybody. I mean, Texas proved at the end of the day, they were on the level of everybody but Ohio State and Georgia. But it won't, you can see them being 9-3 next year. And maybe by the end of the year, you might say they're playing as well as anybody in college football. And Arch Manning looks like maybe he's the best quarterback in football, but you played Ohio State first game of the season.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know why that game, I know why it has to be played, partly because Texas agreed to some things in order to make that move to the SEC open up. Had to agree to a little bit of rotating of games and who was going to get the first game, all that stuff, right? Like I realized that but I don't know why you're playing that game. I don't know why when you already are on the road in Gainesville and Athens, why you need to invite potential problems. But I realize that all this stuff is set up early in advance, but man, break that contract. What's the worst? What's the worst that could happen? They sue you? No, Chad, here's what you do. You talk with Ohio State and you say, we have both agreed that we're going to move this series back into the 2030s. And they can both say, until we have a little bit more of a body of evidence about what it's going to take year in and year out to make the college football playoff, we're gonna postpone that series.
You're destroying your reputation. The rep is already not. The rep is already that you play non-conference games and you're not scared to schedule them. It's gonna look like you're running from the Buckeyes after they just beat you. It's gonna look like you're smart. Nobody catch most.
And I'm saying that it's a dangerous game for Ohio State, and it needs to be mutual. Ohio State shouldn't want to play that game any more than Texas does.
So you want it to be like. You want it to be like a famous couple that's getting divorced. You want a mutual statement to go out from both sides.
I want them to both say, we've mutually agreed to move. And this happens all the time.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard for a
when
college
Texas
football
played
game.
Arkansas in 2008. Why did they play Arkansas in 2008? That game got moved.
Okay, but wasn't there like a hurricane involved? And okay, but
you moved.
I don't want we've both decided we're scared equally. We're moving on. Come on, play the game.
You say scared, I say smart. And if a tornado is in the street and you stand there, running for safety is not being scared. It's being smart. Now, you can use both of those words to describe the same action. I choose to believe it's smart to protect myself.
And I'm telling you,
there will be some dumbass out there that's like, that dude was a pussy.
Right. I'm just telling you,
from the tornado.
When that announcement comes out, the avalanche of crap that will come out of Ann Arbor, Norman, College Station, and everywhere else is just going to be so overwhelming. I just say, play the game. Just
what is
play.
Dude, there's not a news story in the world that can survive a 48-hour period in 2025? Not anything. As an audience, as a public, cannot stay focused. You know what that is? That's a Friday news. Let me tell you what this is. Mm-hmm. That's a Friday news dump that never even gets the light of day by the time Monday arrives. And you've got some Aggies and you got some Sooners who are like, you guys are scared of cats. It's not being talked about on First Take. It's not getting it. Nobody. I'm just telling you, that's a Friday news dump press release. And by the time you'd get any real scrutiny, people have forgotten what happened. Oh, you know what happened? The Masters. Oh, you know what happened? The Final Four. Oh, you know what happened? Pick anything. Like, there's always something. There's NFL playoffs this weekend. They can release that today. And by the time we get to Monday, well, I guess it's Monday. So next weekend, they can release it on Friday. Mm-hmm. By the time we get to Monday, we're talking about the teams in the Super Bowl.
Do you want to see Arch Manning play in Columbus?
Yes.
Then they should play.
No.
Yes.
It's too dangerous.
No, it's not.
It is.
In a world of an expanded playoff where we just watched the season play out, where if you didn't make the playoff, it wasn't because you scheduled a non-conference game. It's because you couldn't handle your conference business.
Absolutely a possibility and on the table next year. And because, look, let me just ask. I don't even care. We don't have to get – they play 3 top 10 teams on the road. How many of those games do you expect them to win?
I think if you're a fan, you hope they can win 2. You hope they can win 2 of the 3.
You hope.
And you certainly got to win one of them.
But realistically,
you could go 1 and 2.
You could go 1 and 2 and never embarrass yourself. But you could lose 17-16 against Ohio State. You could lose 28-25 to Florida. Beat Georgia in Athens. There's no margin of error the rest of the schedule. You cannot have what happened to Notre Dame. You cannot have like all of the teams that lost games this season, and we looked at the rest. You have to be otherwise perfect if you're Texas. And I'm not saying they can't do that. I'm saying that you should never allow yourself as a college football program in 2025 to enter a season in a position where your wiggle room is almost non-existent, and you can actually make a choice to make that a little bit better. Because your schedule, you're still playing they can say whatever they want to about taking that game off the schedule. You beat Georgia in Athens. Nobody's going to say, well, they didn't play Ohio State. You know what they're going to say? That's the best win that anybody in college football has all season long. What are we talking about? So I don't know. I look at the risk and the backlash as minimal. I don't care what Oklahoma fans say. I don't care what Aggies say. They're going to get their heads kicked in October and November.
Yeah.
So let them say what they want to. When they receive a backhand on the face, every day that follows where they want to bring up that Texas didn't play Ohio State is going to look silly. So I don't know. Yeah. It's not going to happen. They're going to play the game. I'm just telling you, it just doesn't make sense. And pride is one of those 7 deadlies. And I would suggest, you know what? Swallow some pride. Do the smart thing. Your schedule's still going to be really hard next year. You're not going to get punished truly for pushing that game a few years down the road. But it's not going to happen, but it should.
As far as we know, Texas and Ohio State will still play on August the 30th.
232 days away, Chad.
ATX Bates. I'm sure you'd be counting that up if they were playing like, Norfolk State or something.
Well, maybe it's Arch's debut. So I might
Arch's debut, that's true. If it was against Richmond, like maybe we should
If it was just Quinn playing Texas State, I would not know.
There you go. Somebody call up the Ohio Bobcats. See if they'll swap that game out. ATX Bates, I see your super chat. We will get to it. Talking Arch Manning today, Texas. Obviously, championship game tonight. Amari Niblack headed to College Station. Looks like 660 of you right now in that Specs chat. We appreciate you for that. We appreciate a lot of our great partners. Let me do one of my favorite things in the world, and that's tell you about sinus and snoring specialists. This is a time of year where it gets even more important. Why? Because it's about to get damn cold after being, warm here. Then it gets cold. Then it rains. Then it stops. It messes with your allergies. I know it does. You're out there right now and you're dealing with allergy stuff. I used to deal with it at least twice a year. This is the place that got rid of my allergies for good. For good. In 2017, they can test you for 50 different things at one time without a needle, no needles involved. You test for 50 different things. They're going to figure out in their allergy center what you're allergic to. And they use these incredible allergy drops that are dialed up just for you to help your body develop those defenses. And over like a 3-year period, you're good. You're not dealing with allergy stuff. That's one of the many things they can do for you at Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Call them at 601-0303 or check that website out at sinussnoringent.com. Start figuring out your path with Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. The healthy part, obviously, the most important. All right, so we had a minor super chat, but super chats are still super chats, Bates. 199. Buy or sell, Arch will be bigger clickbait than Dion. Ooh. Catch, let's imagine the world. Not Dion now. If Dion was the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Arch Manning's the starter at Texas, buy or sell, Arch would be bigger clickbait.
Sell, but they wouldn't be living on each other's corner.
Okay. If Dion stays at Colorado, Arch is the bigger clickbait.
Yeah.
That's a buy.
Sure.
Yeah. Because the Cowboys,
it's
the Cowboys
close. Again, those two guys don't live on each other's corner. One's a coach, one's a player. And it's like LeBron and Kobe when they were both in their pump, and it didn't matter who was better than the other. Everything that LeBron touched was 1A news, and kind of the same with Kobe. And it was rare the day when those two would conflict. Mm-hmm. And in a world where it conflicts, it just comes down to which is more salacious.
Yeah, because you and I both know that the Cowboys circus supersedes everything.
Yes.
So when it's under that tent, it's always bigger than anything else you could say. But that would be a wild world, Bates. I like the thought of that. That thought experiment is crazy. Arch in Austin going through whatever he's going through. If Dion was up at Jerry World, that'd be crazy. Catch, this was a regular chat, but I want you to speak on it because I think this is sort of a new world version of the Arch Manning thing. Because Arch is the guy, I wonder how some of this changes for you. JW Crunch pointing out there's stories out there that Georgia, maybe looking at Dia Bell. I think Dia put out a comment about getting an offer from Georgia. What would you tell Texas fans about this Arch Manning era and what it might mean for like big time recruits that you might already have in a class or that you're going to look at during this time period?
Well, Georgia was always going to go after Dia Bell. Georgia is kind of a disaster from a quarterback recruiting standpoint. And I looked this up over the weekend. I'm so glad this kind of came up, Chad. I want to read this to you. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Because I found myself asking, how the hell they end up with this Gunnar Stockton situation? How are they going into next year? Because this Gunnar Stockton is not some 5-star guy that's been sitting on the bench waiting his turn. And he's not Arch. He's not Julian saying. It's not really what he is. So how was he, after Carson Beck got hurt, the guy? And how going into next season, given that he's pretty unproven in the 6 quarters of football that he's had to play so far in his career, You wouldn't say, I mean, I guess he won the SEC championship, but he didn't play well. Okay. So Georgia at quarterback signed a guy this year, just like last month, a guy who's number 65 in the country, Ryan Montgomery, but he's not a super blue chip prospect. The year before that, they signed a guy named Ryan, can I even read that? Puglisi, number 199. Mm-hmm. They didn't take anybody in 2023. In 2022, they took Gunnar Stockton. He's a low 4-star quarterback.
Now, where did Vandegrift fit into everything? Wasn't
he was a 5-star guy the year before?
Okay,
Gunnar Stockton.
Because that's the guy. Ultimately, I think a Georgia fan would tell you that's who they wished was following Beck. But he's now at Kentucky. Is that right? Or
he's flamed out and has been up until this point a massive bust.
Right, and it went to Kentucky, and now I'm not sure where he is. Sorry, go ahead.
But before that, then it was Carson Beck. Then they took some kid named DeJuan Mathis. And then before that, it was Justin Fields, another 5-star quarterback. They're 0 for 2 on their last 2 5-star quarterbacks, although Justin Fields obviously not 0 for 2 because he wasn't good, 0 for 2 because he left.
Yeah. And again, Stockton's rating for you, where was he?
He was number 174 nationally.
So not a 5-star.
No, but like, man, if you took the school away, if you showed me their last 6 quarterbacks that they've taken in recruiting, it doesn't make it. Everything else they do is elite of the elite of the elite.
Right.
I don't know how their best option on campus right now is a low 4-star quarterback who is completely unproven, and there's nobody. They don't have what they don't have. They don't have Arch. They don't have even the hotshot freshman that's coming in, who's the savior.
Yeah.
What are they doing with their quarterback recruiting?
Thanks to Cody Carpentier for update. Vandegrift retired like 3 weeks ago. Good grief.
He's one of the biggest busts.
Yeah, that's a dude I remember
of this decade.
God, we heard about that name so much, and it was supposed to be such a big deal for them, and then that did not happen. That's fascinating stuff.
Let me put that in perspective for you. By the way, I'm looking at his picture from Kentucky. Like, someone should have looked at him and said, he ain't going to be a success.
Really?
I think you could eyeball that and see it off the cuff.
Just eyeball test does it?
I'm looking at the top 10 from Rivals in 2021 when Vandegrift comes out. This is the top 10 that year. Ewers is number 1. Mason Smith, a defensive tackle out of LSU. J.C. Latham of Alabama. Corey Foreman, defensive end from USC. Amarius Sims goes to Georgia, offensive tackle. Caleb Williams was number 6. Oops. Because obviously he should have been number 1. And look, if Quinn Ewers had just been number 6, a lot of the way we might view his career would be completely different. 6 versus 1 in recruiting is kind of a big deal. Then you had Vandegrift. Then you had Tommy Brockermeyer, who also is already retired. The number 8 and number 9 players in that class already medically retired. And then Ty Thompson went to Oregon as a quarterback at number 10, and he also hasn't been a success. That is like,
man,
couple of hits, like a couple of big hits, including a Heisman winner and the number 1 overall pick of last year's draft. But it's a reminder that even when you sign 5 stars, sometimes they get hurt. Sometimes bad things happen. Sometimes they're not good. Sometimes a lot of things can keep a guy from not being good. And some of the guys on that list, Vandegrift and Brockermeyer, stand out. Like, I would have told you that Tommy Brockermeyer was going to be a first-round draft pick and stood on the table for that. And you know what? I ignored the injuries in high school. I fell so in love with the thought of him as at his best that I ignored the injury that ultimately led to his retirement. And I will never do that again. There will never be another prospect who has a medical red flag that I ignore. And I did. I just ignored the Tommy Brockermeyer red flag. And he shouldn't have been quite ranked as high as he was. He should have been ranked a little bit lower. And when everybody says, why are you ranking him where he's ranked? When everybody else has him ranked here, I would say, got to take into effect a little thing like a major significant injury that's already derailing and disabling him at the high school level. So don't think I haven't thought about that.
All right. Pookie might be the first super chat we've had from Pookie. I see that $10 super chat. We will definitely get to it. If y'all want to line up a super chat right behind Pookie, you can do it. It is involving Art Manning.
Chad, real quick.
Yeah.
In the next 10, 11 through 20, Emeka Egbuka, Jack Sawyer, Donovan Jackson, bam, 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 Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State, hit.
Not bad.
Jatavian Sanders, Bryce Foster. Sorry about that, Chad. And then we do sneak in a Dallas Turner.
Dallas, there he is.
To 20. So, again, super blue chips. When they hit, baby, they hit. But there's no guarantees in life. And I think some of the names, including Bryce Foster, I'm fascinated to see what happens with his career. Anyway,
right.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we'll get to the super chat, Pookie. We'll get you some buy or sells. We're headed towards 1 o'clock. Right now, we'll just take a breath and let you hear about AV consultations. Get that setup you deserve.
Hi, this is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations. We've been providing custom electronic systems for Central Texas for more than 36 years. And
old man, I think they all know who you are and what your company does. This is Camilla McKay. The old man believes in big fun and big ideas. He can make dreams come true, so why not dream big? I've been up in Boston, but I know the old man and all his friends and fellow radio heads have been spreading the holiday spirit here in Texas. Why should we stop there? Keep spreading the good feelings all over. Audiovisual Consultations carries all major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And you don't have to leave your house. Just like Santa, they deliver the gifts to you.
Yeah, I like that, kid. Throw a party, hang out with your friends, catch a concert.
That's all fun and good, but can we get back to the business? You can give us a call at 512-255-8678 or visit our website at avconsultations.com for some cool electronics.
Oh, now you're forgetting something.
And as always, hug your kids. We only pretend to be annoyed. Watch some games with
All righty, super chat time. Pookie. Again, I think this is the first time I've seen the Pookie name pop up. I like it. $10 super chat. From what y'all know about Arch, would you say he's like Quinn and ignores/avoids media and outside opinion? That would make me more confident about next season. The expectations are stratospheric. It's a great word, even if it's not one. Thank you, Pookie. I think it's a word. Sounds like one.
No, it is now.
I've just never heard of stratospheric. I like it, though.
You can Google that and see if there's a definition for it and then go from there. Look, he hasn't done it yet. So I think, he'll probably – the way he's handled the first 2 years in college indicates a pretty cool customer who doesn't waver easily. I think what we've seen of him in limited game time, he's a pretty cool customer. I've not seen Arch panic, even if we might see Arch occasionally confused. I mean, he's still a young guy seeing things for the first time. He's not like he's not a human. But yeah, I think he absolutely has the makeup that he's a Manning. I mean, this is in his blood. He's been raised for this moment and could have no better counsel for all of this. So I think not something I've even thought of as a potential problem.
Yeah. Pookie. And of course it is a word. Absolutely. The stratospheric. That's good. You are good. What's that?
A new casino in Vegas.
It really does. Stratospheric. That's probably a word they have on that, like, right? When you go to the stratosphere, when you go to those rides at the top, like I'm sure it says stratospheric somewhere.
Could also be a strip club
on the wall. Pookie, thank you very much. Yes, stratospheric. Thank you for that super chat. Catch, one of the things that and you talked about it earlier with Arch. One of the things that I find interesting here is I sense, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I sense that like Texas fans are going to be so connected. I'm on the side of not that they're going to totally give him a free pass. And that's not what I'm saying. I really do think most Texas fans, when something goes a little iffy, they're going to look for every other excuse first before they get to Arch.
Well, look, and this takes place at a time when Sark's being asked the first real questions, I think, in his entire career. You know, it's one thing to be an OC in the NFL and people question whether or not you should be the OC. Like, that's different than being the head coach who calls his own plays. It's just different. And the NFL is different than college. I don't think he's probably in college ever been a guy that's had people really because, you know, you're talking about a guy that in every game, the announcers go out of their way to talk about how respected he is and the all of which other coaches look at what he does and how different it is and the motion and the design. And like they metaphorically please him on the air in every broadcast, like in ways that Colin Klein does not get talked about like that. But he's being asked questions. I'm getting on a daily basis. When is he going to give up play calling? He needs to. And one of the things that Anwar and I talked about today was that, you know, part of the problem he has in his job is that in the middle of the season, in the biggest games, when his focus should be entirely on play calling, he's juggling 9,000 other things that the world's best play callers who aren't head coaches don't have to deal with.
Yeah. And we've also seen catch examples of offensive coaches, maybe not at his level, certainly not at the Texas level. We've seen big time coaches though give that up. Like we've seen it. We watched whatever you think of Mike Gundy. We've watched Mike Gundy give it up and take it back for that matter, but we've watched him give it up. This team that's playing tonight,
we're going to see potentially Brent Venables do it. If they pick the Ohio State defensive coordinator, that's Brent Venables basically saying, I am out on defense.
Right. Now that's right. That's the other side of the ball. Maybe fans look at that a little differently, but you're right. That would be that's apples and apples. Ryan Day tonight, right? Knowles is defense. Chip Kelly come in and call your plays
from being a head coach
so that he can deal with all that other stuff. We watch the NFL versions of it. It's rare in the NFL sometimes, depending on who you're talking about, right? Does McVay call his plays real time? Yeah, I think he does. But there's some other guys that don't. And Sark's just got to figure out, like, on the list of things. I think Sark
sees himself, including the pros. So you're talking Shanahan, you're talking McVay. It's a short list. I think Sark sees himself as the best play calling head coach I think this is how he views himself. Mm-hmm. I am the best at what I do as a head coach and calling plays in all of college football. And I think he would maybe concede there are a few guys in the NFL that have to be, I just mentioned two of them, but I bet Sarkeesian sees himself as one of the top 5 play callers in the world.
Yeah, and that's why he should listen to you. And if that's what he's not giving up, think of other things that he could give up, adjust, tweak, more help on the GM side, more help on whatever it is, the GM, recruiting, NIL, that whole monster, get some help there if you feel overwhelmed so that you don't ever feel overwhelmed when it comes time for the 40-second play clock to start and you need a badass 3rd and goal from the 6. That's what you have to be able to do.
Because you know what? In the biggest moments of the season, Chad, when they had those moments, they did not succeed.
Right. And they did the same. And that's how last season ended too.
And that predates Arch. So
Correct.
When you say fans are going to look for any reason to not blame Arch.
Yeah.
It's already built in. It's
right.
already built in. And it's a fair question. Sark won't like it.
Right.
And I want to raise my hand and say for the record, I nitpick Sark all the time, but not because I don't acknowledge that he's one of the best in the country at what he does, but the goal is perfection. That's like, and it's unattainable. But when your job is analysis, things like talking about the good and the bad is like part of the analysis.
Mm-hmm.
I am an advocate for Steve Sarkeesian calling plays.
Yeah,
what the hell are you going to get that's better?
No, I agree.
I think Sark sees himself as one of the 5 best play callers in the world. And I think he's kind of respected that way. And he's not going to give that up. It's what makes him special. It's why if the Dallas Cowboys wanted to talk to Steve Sarkeesian this week, that's a big part of the reason why. It's part of his package. But people are asking questions for the very first time. And I think nationally, those people aren't asking questions. You know why? Because they're just going to blame Quinn. They're just going to say that's a Quinn Ewers thing. They're not so deep into the weeds that they're saying, well, you know what's happened? Coming down to the third quarter, Texas doesn't make – remember in the third quarter, the offense would – like that's not what the nation is talking about.
Right.
And locally, though, we're so into the weeds that we know the nooks and crannies of all of it, as opposed to like, hey, the offense wasn't as great at the end of the season as it probably wanted to be. I guess that was a Quinn Ewers problem because when he had Mac Jones, it wasn't a problem.
Yeah, and I think it's about fans and the way they love on certain players. I think this is going to have the feel of Ricky, Vince, and Colt, where when there's an issue, your brain, whether you even mean to do it or not, your brain goes to something else. Like, I'm not even a Longhorn fan by definition, but catch when somebody tries to rip Texas for the 08 performance in Lubbock, when they try to rip on a guy on defense or they try to rip on Colt, I immediately talk about that offensive line, and it's almost like my brain wants to defend Colt. And I think there's going to be this thing in Texas fans' minds where it's like, unless it is glaringly, stupidly obvious that it's Arch's problem, they are going to blame Sark, play calling, scheme, offensive line. Why didn't you deal with the running back room more? Why didn't you get more receivers out of the portal? Why isn't the defense holding up better? Like, it's just going to add. And then they're going to get to like number 10 and go, well, and 16 threw a bad ball. Like, maybe. Right? I think that's where we're about to go here. And in a way, I dig those kind of seasons for fans.
But it's exhausting. Like, that's the thing that Texas fans need to realize. There is risk in this. Look, I talked about this in my column, Chad. If you're under the age of 30, and we have a bunch of those people that watch the show, you guys don't know what the hell we're talking about when we talk about Chris Sims playing football for Texas.
Whew.
They don't know, Chad.
They do not know. You're right.
If someone who's 30 would have been like 6 years old in 2001. So what would they really remembered and experienced?
They might have had a jersey.
They might I remember what I remember from games that were played at 6.
Yeah, I can remember some of those.
And I can remember like touchdowns and things like that, but I don't know that I can remember what was baked around the games, right?
You didn't have a 6-year-old running around, Daddy, what's a cell phone? Why did they get a number? Yeah.
But maybe you're the 1% that's the exceptional 6-year-old that can remember that game. Yeah. But by and large, anybody who's 30 and under, they don't remember Chris Sims. They just weren't alive. Right? Because anybody who's 24 and under didn't experience it. If you live through that, though, you do remember what it's like to watch the son of an NFL quarterback receive scrutiny. That, we're talking about Steve Sarkeesian and Arch, but we expect them to be we expect them to be so good that is my suggestion that they cancel their first game so as not to like get in the way of a playoff run because of scheduling, because two of the first 5 games of the season are on the road against top 5 teams. And maybe that's just a lot to ask of a guy who's just taken over. But nevertheless, if the Arch Manning experience went sideways at all, it will be ugly. Because we know what it looks like.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. This one, again, there's a different feel, both sides of it, because the Sims Applewhite thing had its complications on multiple levels. I don't think the coaches clearly understood what was happening. They couldn't lay it out to the players, and then the players dealt with it however they did, and that affects the fans. I would argue this one feels like everyone has laid it out properly in theory and knows what it's going to be like. And Quinn had to deal with stuff because Arch was in the background, but there's nobody in the background for Arch. There's nobody breathing over the shoulder. And deep down in a Texas fan's mind, when it goes wrong, nobody turns to their buddy and goes, blank is probably a better option. They're going to turn to their buddy and blame something else. Yeah. And they're going to be thinking deep down, hey, 16's my guy. Well, you want somebody else to throw the ball? Would you rather have DJ Lagway? Whoa, easy. That's not what I said. I just said the play looked like this or that. Okay, I'm just checking because we'll get you another quarterback. Oh, no. I want Arch. That's different.
If it goes sideways, you know what happens? Hey, we'll reinvent the Ewers thing, and it will be Sark didn't get all the most out of Ewers either.
Yeah.
We look at it now as Quinn Ewers didn't live up to the hype. Nobody ever says Steve Sarkeesian that it's his fault that Quinn Ewers never got better than pretty good.
Yeah, it'll go back. You're right. That'll start to stack up on Sark retroactively. If the Arch Manning stuff doesn't look perfect to fans, they'll go backwards. And then it's going to be all about blaming Sark and play calling and what's on his plate, like you're talking about. Look, turn into that.
Sark's now been at Texas since 2021. He's had 4 seasons, and in 4 seasons, he hasn't had a quarterback throw for better than 160, which would be really good. Like, that would be really good. But in 4 years, that's not great, but that's really good. That puts you like in the top 20 of college quarterbacks this year, which is really good quarterback play. It's not all-time great, but like Texas is playing tonight. If Quinn Ewers was a 163 quarterback, and that doesn't get you that does not get you a Heisman invite. But it means you're really good.
Probably beat Will Howard.
You're playing tonight.
Yep.
You're playing tonight, and you're a double-digit favorite in a national championship game.
Yep.
And look, I'm talking about what amounts to a 15-point increase in just season statistical rating, because where would that kind of trickle down to? Even think of it like, I mentioned this today, and by the way, I can't wait to get to buy or sell once we do, because I do have my questions, and I gave them thought. Excellent. I entered them into the system. Excellent. I have a hotter than, so like, let's get to buy or sell quickly, but I'll just say, oh hell, I lost my train of thought. Never mind. I had a good point.
Damn.
Lost it.
Real quick, then, as you're thinking of your point, our man Cody Carpentier did throw in one other name in the Georgia discussion. I'm not sure if you mentioned Jared Curtis in the 2026 class, decommitted from Georgia in October, more likely to go to South Carolina or North Carolina. They had him in the class.
Man, that school has a quarterback thing.
Weird.
It's just weird, right? Because we wouldn't say that Georgia's been bad at quarterback on the field.
No.
It's just that their recruiting for this entire decade is puzzling.
But it might be something, Catch, that Kirby Smart has not quite figured out in a way that his mentor did at the end of the Bama run. Because by the end of that Bama run for Nick Saban, it wasn't just about, that's your quarterback, that clunky dude is your quarterback, and you're relying on defense. By the end of it, he had a couple dudes that was like, oh, never mind, Nick. You figured the quarterback thing out too, huh?
Well, yeah. Multiple first-round draft picks and Heisman winners, and it starts to happen, and you're like, oh, so it's like that. You're right.
Yeah.
When Nick leaves, he's really at that point, Alabama's reputation is they're race cars on offense.
Yeah.
It was not viewed as a bland Greg McElroy,
right.
We're winning despite our quarterback, which I know is unfair to Greg McElroy, really good college player. But you think back to that national championship game against Texas and he was not good and it didn't matter. A little bit like Georgia at home this year. That dude could throw 8 interceptions. They still might have won that game. Georgia's just mystifying.
Who won both rings? Who won their back?
The crazy thing that Sark's been able to do, and I don't want to sidetrack us because I get it. Boy, 2021, 2022, 2023. I guess 22, 23, and 24 is Quinn. 25 and 26, presumably, is Arch.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of those guys is holding Texas up by gunpoint in NIL. And we're at an age where I don't know that Texas knows where the money's coming from yet to pay all the bills. It's going to get paid, right? That Texas prides itself on we pay our bills on time. They're not going to give up that reputation that's been built. Hell, I remember there was a guy on the team last year in August that I had a parent reach out to me and say, my guy hasn't been paid. My son.
Mm-hmm.
What's up? Is Texas not going to pay my guy? I called up a source. I was like, hey, FYI, this player is asking, it's kind of out there. I don't, just be aware. I know you guys love your rep. And I was told, oh, his check is in the mail. And oh, by the way, it's in his contract that gets paid within 30 days. They have how it is. It's like when you send someone an invoice and they tell you we pay our invoices within 30 to 60 days. And in the contract, it was the trigger date is whatever, August 1st. Mm-hmm. You'll be paid by June. And they knew that they had answers for everything. And you know what? They were proven right. In the end, the kid got paid. The whole, oh no, they're going, it all went away. And that's the closest I've ever heard. Now I think, man, they don't know yet where all that money's coming from. But imagine if Arch was hey man, one of the things that we learned in this family is you never turn $1 down. You see my Uncle Eli? You see my Uncle Peyton? Do you see them turning down many national mega deals? We love money in the Manning household. And we think, based on market value, that we could ask for $8 million this year to play a season at quarterback at Texas. Texas would have to pay it because someone else would. And what if I just told you that there's 5 or 6 million? This maybe not. I don't know. I don't know the numbers. So I'm spitballing here and just could completely be wrong. And so I want to say that before I say what the actual number is. But imagine that there's a number of millions that Texas still needs to account for to pay all of its bills based on all the renegotiating that took place to keep all of the roster except for Amari Niblack, right? Now imagine that Arch is asking for 8. And now imagine that instead of trying to figure out where the hell you're going to come up with $4 or $5 million, you're trying to figure out how you're going to come up with 13. That suddenly, well, we're seeing it at Missouri. The athletic department taking out a $15 million loan because from the school's loaning from the general fund $15 million to the athletic department because hey man, it's tight. It's tight. And we have to have the money to spend. And I think that, and it's not an accident that the money that they took out from a loan is roughly the amount of money designated for football, I'm guessing, from the NIL revenue sharing. So they got that taken care of. Know that. So Steve Sarkeesian is pulling Texas through a half decade of football where the starting quarterback isn't really Arch and Quinn don't need the Texas One Fund. If they want, and Quinn got it, if Arch wants it, if that family wants it, they can go get millions and never have to call a Texas NIL person. That is power, baby. And they have chosen not to wield it. That Sarkeesian's been able to enjoy this run is a borderline miracle. We may never see anything quite like it again in the history of college football. You think about even Oklahoma this year having to go into the portal to get their starter and having to pay more money for Mateer from Washington State than Texas is paying for Arch Manning.
Hey, and Catch, you pointed it out on a show earlier today. It might not stop. Diabelle's dad, made a little money in his time. Like if you can just figure out how to keep staying connected to kids that are badass, that happen to have badass dads or moms or both that are not starving for money, like you just see if you can keep that run going.
If you're Sarkeesian and someone at an event says, what's the number one thing you look for in a quarterback? I say 2 things. Number 1, NFL bloodlines. Number 2, hugely affluent. Not even rich. Yeah. They're affluent.
And then number 3 is, can he throw the 15-yard out? Like that's maybe you're still.
But that's below. I can work. I just did Quinn Ewers, and he's been hurt for 2 months. I can make it work.
Yeah, exactly.
I need the other 2 things more than I need the ability to throw that ball that Quinn Ewers throws really well to the outside.
That is fantastic. Dark Borg, I see your super chat. We will grab that real quick before we hit buy or sell. Also, Catch, before we hit buy or sell, why don't you tell the folks about Rogue Shop? I heard you talking about Rogue earlier. Is it a Rogue time of year for you, sir?
Man, I am fucking high right now. It's probably gonna be like a snowing. Like, yeah, I got kids at the house. They're gonna be here for 2 more days. I don't do anxiety, but if I did, Rogue will help that. I sleep good. Rogue helps with that. I'm not in any pain. Actually, my shoulder, I did something last night while I was sleeping. I might need to order the salve and rub that stuff on my shoulder. It's like magic sauce. It just makes things feel better. I'm into the carts. I got sent like a care package, and it's wonderful. And yes, I have engaged. And look how good I've been on the show today. So it's real simple. Go to rogueshop.com, scan that QR code, start getting the product. He's an Orange Bloods. He bleeds. He cares. He obsesses just like you do. Keep it in the family. He's going to take care of you. Let him know. Use that promo code Orange Bloods. They'll take care of you. They will make sure that you have everything you need.
There you go.
And sometimes, man, you got to be careful about questions you want to ask that you might not want to know the answers to.
Hey, that's why I ask. I know you're going to give me the answer every time. I know I'm going to get the answer.
It's a day or a Rogue Shop kind of a day.
Apparently that's a yes. I think that's a resounding yes.
I was taking the trash out earlier, and I felt something in my pocket, and I was like, oh, that's where I put the Rogue. Don't mind if I do.
So, Catch, I'll give you the choice here. You want to go buy or sell or deal with a super chat that is comparing Sark and Greg Davis as play callers?
Well, I tell you what, I want the show to end with buy or sell.
Okay. So, all right.
I have called Quinn Ewers the Greg Davis of Texas quarterbacks.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. All right. Well,
you understand that, though?
I think so. Let me see what you do with this then. Dark Borg for $9.99 says, for all the discussions about Sark being an offensive savant, are Sark's offenses that much better than Greg Davis, not including OU? Seems like Davis had a lot more ease putting points on the board.
No. I will not let you finish. Dark Borg.
Okay.
That is the most wildly flashing disclaimer and asterisks in the history of the show.
Catch, how much are those parentheses lifting right now? How much weight?
They're was.
Like Mark Henry might not be in his prime, might not be able to lift that much weight that you're asking those parentheses to carry. Dartboard.
Now look,
What?
I appreciate that he snuck that in there.
I mean, just not including OU.
And
Continue.
You know what, man? Dartboard. Had you not included the parentheses, I was with you. I was with you.
Come on, man.
I was with you. And you know what you ended up doing with the parentheses? Reminding me about the OU game.
Dark days in Dallas, Dartboard. Come on now.
Because I was just going to look at the best of Greg Davis.
Yeah.
And omit the worst. And you just made it so that is an impossibility. Look. Chad, finish the question.
Seems like Davis had a lot more ease putting points on board.
Dark, Greg Davis not better than Steve Sarkeesian. However, Greg Davis did produce offenses, multiple, that are better than any offense that Steve Sarkeesian, I think, has produced. Now, look, they haven't been bad on offense, though. Texas has been like top 25 nationally in offense in each of the last couple of seasons. So they just haven't, look, Greg Davis's offense in 2005 averaged 50 points a game. Yeah. It was like an NBA all-star game on turf. For those of you that missed 2005, because you're 25 years old or 30 and just didn't pay attention, I used to go to games. I mentioned Sean Adams earlier. He and I traveled every game in 2004 and 2005 together. Before in 2006, we did our first post-game podcast. God, almost 20 years of post-game podcasts. I remember being in the stands for Missouri in 2005, and we just played a game that we did for the rest of the season. How many plays will it take Texas to score a touchdown?
Wow.
It would be like 4 plays, and it would go and it'd be like 3. And we did it the whole season long because they average 50 points a game. When a team averages 50 points a game, they usually score touchdowns on pretty much every damn drive they have the ball. So Greg Davis had that. If we want to say the best of Greg Davis versus the best of Steve Sarkeesian right now, it's advantage Greg Davis. But the worst of Steve Sarkeesian is light years better than the worst of Greg Davis. I mean, literally you went into Oklahoma games not knowing if Texas could score in those games. And then often was reminded, probably not a lot, actually. So, but yeah. But look, Greg Davis, the reason why I call Quinn Ewers the Greg Davis of Texas quarterbacks, because he's got a resume that says he's one of the best of all time, but he's scrutinized in a way where at all times it felt like people either wanted to change or wanted to complain or never quite say he's one of the best guys that we could possibly have, even at the best of times. That there was always like a what if, or he's not this, and that's why he's the great. And it's a compliment because Greg Davis is the best offensive coordinator in the history of the school. Like his resume, throw it on the table, Jack. He's got the national championship ring. He's got records. He's got longevity. Like, you got to put some respect on that name. But when he was at his best, no one feared him. So there's that.
Darkborg, thank you for that super chat. I figured that would give us a little bit of discussion. I don't see any other super chats right now. That means it's almost time for buy or sell. Real quick before that, let's just remind you about Specs. They bring you the Specs chat each and every day. Go get stocked up because, it's about to get really cold and maybe snow a little bit, or get the app. Here you go.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets.
Yeah, got to make sure you have enough elixir in the house for the snow stuff when it comes. All right, Kat.
Same-day delivery, that stuff tomorrow.
That's it. They'll get it to you. They will get it to you.
Don't leave the house, but get your booze.
All right, Catch, you said you want to finish with your buy or sell. So I'm going
That's
first.
not what I said. I said I wanted to finish with buy or sell.
Oh, okay. You want to go first or second?
I'll go first.
All right. Hit it.
Buy or sell number one. If the Longhorns had given Sark a Jimbo-sized guaranteed contract extension, it would have been understandable and solid business.
Sell. Nobody should get that kind of money. Nobody should get that amount of guaranteed money. You got to protect yourself. Things can always get weird. Things can always get strange. You just don't want that kind of pressure living on you and your coach at the same time. So I'm going to sell. Nobody needs to get that.
But isn't Sark already close to that?
Close, maybe. But you can't have it getting out that every single penny, and then you
how much did Jimbo have left on the contract when he left?
It's through. They got to pay him through what, 2031?
I don't remember that sounds right.
I believe that's true. Because remember, they did it, then extended it. They did all
like 70, 80 million?
77 at that moment or whatever.
I think Sark's probably sitting on about 75.
But
the difference is Sark has proven himself
right
at Texas, whereas Jimbo never, you know what I mean? You know what? I don't know that you're wrong, but I wonder if you gave Kirby that deal right now, what the thing that you'd be worried about is Kirby leaving before it's over with, and not in 10 years we would want to fire Kirby.
Yeah, I don't know. The feel of it was so weird. Maybe it would feel different at a different program, Catch. Again, like you said, that has a little
asking you that question is. I asked you for a reason. Like your responses would be unique.
Yeah, it's very specific to me in terms of that. But if you put it in the realm of a Texas, Ohio State, or Georgia, pick one of those three guys. Can you give that guy a guaranteed deal and it'll feel different? Maybe, but in as a rule, I would say sell, because it just gets too messy.
I wonder if we could even come up with 5 coaches in the country that you could justify that contract for.
I can't think of 5 right now. Those 3, maybe. Those 3, and then we'd have to come up with 2 more, but I can't think of 2 more off the top of my head.
Could you give Dabo that deal if you're Clemson?
I was about to say, are Dabo and like Marcus Freeman worth it right now? I mean, Freeman's been a badass at Notre Dame. Freeman has done stuff at Notre Dame, Catch, that old coaches with hats on and black and white pictures never did.
Look, I'm rooting for him tonight, and I want that guy to have a ring, but I don't think I could give him a 10-year deal at $100 million.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. No, again, it's too much. It's too complicated. Give him a lot of money, sure. Don't make it all guaranteed. Don't make it 10 years. It just feels desperate.
Buy or sell number 2. Burnout will be the number one thing that sends successful college head coaches into retirement or the NFL over any other thing moving forward.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I kind of like it. Sort of an old school term, depending on what sport you love and what time frame you're in. It's a fascinating discussion about what coaches go through. But yeah, some version of that, probably, because there's a lot of hassle you have to deal with that you don't in the NFL, or that Saban would tell you don't in retirement. So yeah, I think that's probably it. There's a lot of different ways to say it, but that one word might describe it better than anything. So yeah, bye.
Well, I just think flat out mental exhaustion and physical exhaustion.
Because in the end, Saban told us it's not that I didn't want to do it. It's that I didn't feel comfortable doing it at my age, to promise it to these kids that I could still keep it. In a way, that's telling me there's some burnout there, but he didn't say the word. But I still think, yeah.
Saban coaching in the playoffs this year with everything else that was going on at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been the only thing it'd have bitched and
crazy.
Bitched and bitched.
Catch, we had coaches in this playoff complaining about it while it was happening. Like nobody, you don't hear
it. You ask a question, I'm going to give you an answer. It sucks, man.
Yeah. No NFL coach had to field that question in these playoffs. And I mean, can you imagine NFL coach? You know, it sucks this time of year, guys. Got to go to the office early. What did he say? What's he talking about? I mean, that just doesn't happen in the NFL.
Well, no, imagine that you were talking to Andy Reid this week and said, "Hey, coach, how's your week going? This is the biggest game of the season. You're getting ready for a spot to go to the Super Bowl." And imagine if he said, "Well, this is the week where we focused pretty intensely on draft prep. So We're going to do hours on the draft because you know how the draft is.
I got 8 guys that could go into free agency 2 days from now.
We got free agency. As soon as the season ends, we're going to lose a bunch of the team. I've got contract negotiations are taking place with TV partners, and I'm involved in that. And if I'm going to throw anything else on there, I would also just say the team has had me hold meetings with 10 players this week to try to keep them into staying here and not opting out of contracts. So it's fun. It's been good stuff. But I'm going to call plays on Sunday, and I feel good about it.
Different worlds. Different worlds.
Buy or sell number 3. This one is especially for you.
Mm-hmm.
You would trade Marcel Reed just for the 2025 season if it meant you could get the 2025 version of Alabama's Keelan Russell, Oklahoma's John Mateer, or Vanderbilt's Diego Pavia in return. So you're going to have the option of bringing Marcel Reed back in 2026.
Right.
But for 2025, you would trade him for one of those 3 players just this season.
Man, this would be a lot easier to deal with if I knew what the offensive coordinator wanted to do. I will, you know what? I will buy and I'll go with Russell. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I'll buy and go with Russell.
I knew you were going to buy, but I didn't know. I kind of think A&M and Colin Klein's offense with Diego Pavia might.
That could be interesting too. Yeah, I thought about it, but I'll go with Keelan Russell.
You're going to sling it and feel good about it.
Sure, Colin Klein. Got to show me. Got to show me what it is.
Kind of say about your program at that point that maybe it's like we're talking about Florida right now. They didn't have a good season, and we're convinced they're going to be really tough next year. Buy or sell number 4. Another question designed for the Aggie inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
A&M fans will have at least 30% of the seats for the upcoming Texas game at the Moody Center.
Yeah, bye. You're more. I don't know that it's 50, but it's more than 30. I'm going to say it's 40-45.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. It's a game of hotter than. A lot of times we go old school because we're old dudes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Heather Thomas hotter than Heather Locklear. And like we're just kind of locked into our little 80s bubbles.
Right.
I'm going 2025 versus 2025.
Okay.
Right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
Zoe Saldana.
Oh, man.
Hotter than Zendaya.
Wow. This is interesting. I have seen both of them in something pretty recently because Zoe is Catwoman from the Batman, right?
No,
isn't that her? Or is that not? Or is that Kravitz?
That's
Zoe
Kravitz.
Zoe Saldana is Gamora from Guardians.
Correct.
Gotcha. Which I have also seen recently, by the way. So I've seen her in action. She's beautiful, absolutely beautiful,
and she's likely going to be. She may win an Oscar for her role in Amelia Perez.
Yeah, and Zendaya, I don't know if Zendaya is getting Oscar attention for Challengers, but I saw Zendaya in Challengers. Okay, Zoe Saldana, hotter than Zendaya. God, they're both incredible. Catch, maybe this is the superhero fan in me or the tennis fan in me. I'm going to sell and take Zendaya.
Wow.
She's beautiful. There's that extra layer of sarcasm and wit and danger that I don't think quite exists with Saldana. There's a little more ladylike quality to Saldana. It's a little more of the, like if we're talking long-term, long run, bring them home to mama, I think it's Zoe. But in terms of a hotter than discussion, I think it's Zendaya.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
I would leave my family for Zoe Saldana.
She's awesome, dude. She's so the way when there's 2 ways you're smoking hot as an actress visually. If they shave you completely bald and you're smoking hot, you're smoking hot. Or if they paint you a completely different color than humans come in, and you're still hot? You're really hot.
You're like, she's green. And you're like, I don't give a damn.
Green. And your response is, but it's a pretty green, isn't it?
Hey, man, look.
It's a lovely shade.
I don't mean to admit this out loud, but I could easily be turned into Richie from Harlem Nights, where it's like, hey, honey, put mommy on the phone. I ain't ever coming home.
That's
Bye.
it. Oh, my God. Unbelievable. All right, Catch, here we go. Buy or sell number one. Nothing you saw in the NFL this weekend impressed you more than Saquon Barkley.
Sell. He was the most impressive look, man. How I had to give it up to Washington. They didn't just go into Detroit and win a game. They went into Detroit, a team that if you just told me 48 hours ago was going to win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't have even blinked. I'd have been like, no, it makes total sense. They're maybe the best team in football. They mollywopped them in their crib, made Dan Campbell cry. And they're doing it with a rookie quarterback, and I can't process how much better being a Washington Commanders fan is than being a Dallas Cowboys fan right now. They have that dude for the next decade. And based on the early results.
Yeah. Catch staying in the NFL. Buy or sell number two. If a Texans fan tells you they were robbed by the officials Saturday, you'd agree.
Sell. I didn't watch the game.
Okay. Fair enough.
I had a date night with my wife on Saturday for like the first time. Like we went into downtown Houston and
good for you.
Got dolled up. Like, so I just, I came home and watched Washington and Detroit after it was over with.
Gotcha.
And I was like, wait, what? Like I saw the score at about 3:00 in the morning and I immediately went to YouTube TV and watched the key plays and was just like,
right. Okay. So stay right there with that feeling because that's where we're going next. Buy or sell number three. When the Washington Philly thing sank in for you as a Cowboys fan, the reaction involved swearing, not laughter.
Sell. I didn't swear, man. I was just defeated.
Mm-hmm.
Just
yeah.
Look, I saw the news today that Brian Schottenheimer is now the favorite to be the betting favorite to be the next Dallas Cowboys head coach. Chad, I might be out, man.
You're to that point.
I didn't say I'm out.
You just might. You're thinking about it.
It's just
it
just crossed my mind. Like, you know what?
Okay.
I love Liverpool. Like, I don't need anything more than Liverpool with a splash of the Phillies and the Sixers.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll make that determination at the end. That's interesting that you would admit that. It is Washington and Philly on the
I don't want to.
No,
but like one of the things I believe in, I talk about this all the time in everything that doesn't involve sports. Man, I'm real big on eliminate the things from your life that don't bring enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
The Dallas Cowboys bring no enjoyment, man. None.
Yeah.
None.
All right.
So what are we doing?
Yeah, no, it's fair, and I'll back you up before we get done today. I promise. Before that, though, Catch, you used the word mollywop, if I'm not mistaken.
I did
in your column to describe tonight. I just want to make sure we get this on record. Ohio State by 28 plus tonight. Buy or sell?
Sell. Not quite that much.
Okay. Not quite. Because to me, when you say whip, mollywopped, all that, I go 21 in the pros, 28 in college. That's what I think of when you say mollywopped. I just want to make sure I know what you're talking about. They cover and what? It's like 20?
I don't have a score in mind. I just feel like a very emphatic.
Okay.
This thing's over at halftime kind of game.
Gotcha. Okay. And finally, Catch, I don't have a hotter than. I have a musical battle. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I'm just interested in where you, as an Austin boy, will go with this one. Buy or sell number 5. Janis Joplin and Dolly Parton shared a birthday yesterday. By the way, 3 years difference in those two people. Prime on prime, Catch. You'd rather see Janis at Antone's than Dolly at the Grand Ole Opry.
Ooh.
Whatever their prime is for you on the primest of stages for them, you'll go with Janis.
I'm going to go buy. And can I tell you why?
Sure.
I think I would have made a play at a one-night stand with Janis. I've always thought that. I've always thought if I came across Janis Joplin in Austin or San Francisco when she was alive, I just think she's I think she'd be a firecracker in the sack.
Oh,
I think I would be like, Janis, I am going to treat you really well tonight. And I think she would have dug my nice guy vibe and we'd have got down. So I think I'd have gone Janis, use the DeLorean to get there, and then shoot my shot the way that I think I would have if I'd have been around in the late 60s.
Here's my favorite part of that idea. If it happened and you were able to be successful, the next evening, like 24 hours almost after, you might be sleeping with the bats under the bridge. Like, that's what I love about the possibility there, because who knows where a night with Janis Joplin leads you. You know what I mean? They could find you just passed out right on Town Lake. You could be in a kayak. Like, who knows?
No, look.
Who knows where you end up?
I'm not taking heroin.
Oh, see, you say that.
But I might take some psychedelics.
I was going to say, you're with Janis Joplin. You might end up taking a psychedelic without knowing you took a psychedelic. And then again, you're trying to fly with those bats and you go right in the water. I'm telling you.
Look, I've come to grips with what the next day might look like.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I have found her. Now, look, the thing is, Dolly is a beautiful woman, but like, I'm not shooting my shot with Dolly.
Okay. All right.
I think I could have. Every time I see the Janis Joplin story, I think, man, I could have hung out with Janis. I think we could have been cool.
Tell you, next day.
Look, man, I grew up in Hyde Park with just crazy shit everywhere. Weird is kind of like my vibe. So I just think that, like,
you'd need more than coffee and an omelet the next day to recover from that.
Next day, I'm 3 days. I'm sleeping for 3 days.
Yeah, you would. You'd need a lot of time off. Hey, before we get out of here, let's get you a couple reminders. The biggest reminder, the OB official watch party for the championship game tonight. We're not going to do it because of the weather. Catch, we don't want to make Catch at the drive-in.
You can still go and watch the game.
You can go watch the game if you like. It's
the place to be if you're going to do that. But from a staff standpoint, I can't make the trip. Chad's not going to drive in from Elgin and risk.
Yeah,
because the weather's potentially dicey.
Right
About the time the game ends, and it just kind of is what it is. However, if you live in the area, if you want to go out and watch the game, if you want to watch the first half of the game, go check out the menu. Go. You don't have to play poker. You just want to go. You just want to eat and go watch the game. It's a sports bar. It's the best in Austin. But
check it out.
We're not going to be there the way we had planned, really, as an entire staff.
We'll get there at some point. At some point, we'll get an event together.
March Madness.
If the basketball team can get their act together and get into the tournament.
That might be better if they're not there.
Maybe it's the Final Four Saturday, something that.
It's that opening Thursday.
The opening Thursday. And
I talked about this already today. Like, we're down for that first round of games. We may even take it off.
All those screens.
And we just, we're taking a day off, and the whole Orange Bloods gang is going to go watch basketball.
That may be a good idea. Yeah, we'll think more along those lines. Also, remember, if you are in the house looking for something to do, get on that online poker. Hijackpoker.com. Put the code in. It's OB20. That'll get you $20 in free play. Get the app on any device you want. And that OB20 code is good through the end of the month. Thank you to Hijack Poker. Thank you to Texas Card House for their great support. All right, Catch, anything else? I have one other thing I want to show you before we get out of here. Other than that, do you have anything for me?
Nope.
All right, Catch. I'm not saying this is going to push you over the edge, but this is the day every year when I update the updated truth. So here you go. You're a Dallas Cowboy fan. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. If y'all are like 30 years old or younger, this is the crap you're living with. You ready? We're going back to Super Bowl 30. Cowboys win. Neil O'Donnell, Larry Brown, Bill Cowher tells his daughter, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Here's what's happened since. No fancy colors, just the numbers. Since that game, the Niners 9 times, Philly 8 times, Green Bay and Kansas City 7 times each. Washington has now gone once. That means only the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC have not been to the championship game since then. And by the way, then is 29 years ago. If we make it to this point next year, it will be 30 years of the Cowboys not making the championship game, while that team, and that team that matter to Cowboys fans have made it 24 combined times. So before you get on my man Jeff Ketchum for having feelings about the Cowboys and maybe being ready to leave, he may not be the only one, because that's what Cowboy fans are living through right now. 29 years.
Let me tell you what this feels like.
Oh, my God.
I feel like I've been in a bad marriage for 30 years.
Yep.
But the last 10, I've also been seeing a great mistress. Like, she makes me happy.
She wear a red dress?
Red dress, red everything, Chad.
She wears red everything.
She tells me I will never walk alone.
Oh, there it is. Well played.
We go places like Paris and Istanbul, and she's exciting.
She's an international girl, you're saying.
She's not just for everything. Down for everything. All the cups.
Not just Plano, Irving, and Arlington. No, you're going worldwide.
She wants me forever. Ride or die. We travel the world together.
Wow.
And I can't divorce my wife because it's against my religion. That's what it feels like.
Right. Yeah. Because you're one of
I said death till death do us part.
Yeah.
That vow meant something.
Yeah. Catch, I make fun of people all the time for doing it. We've met fans through the years. They'll get out. And you know what happened? You know what the key thing is? Every time I see them, the next time they're smiling. Every time. Every time.
Look
but
at
I still
my
make
face right now and how unhappy I am talking about this.
No, I know. And I always make fun of them, Catch. I make fun of them and I'm like, you've got to stick with your, look at, I'm wearing the shirt today because I knew we were going to talk about this. And I think of it as they're my team. They're my team. I was born 30 miles from Dallas. They're my freaking team. I am never going to put them down. But all these people, Catch, that put them down, when I hear from them, it's like there's perfume on the messaging. When I see them, they feel lighter. They smile at me. They feel so happy. Like, I don't know. I don't think you're going to talk me into it.
Chad,
You're going to make me think about it.
On Saturday, Liverpool won late. And then later on in the day, Arsenal drew late. I felt I was on cloud 9. Nothing could have made me happier in life that doesn't involve my kids.
Right.
I mean, when I tell you I was in such a good mood. Man, I hadn't felt that way.
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys do not make me feel that way. And you know what? If I'm being completely honest, a little bit of my soul as a Cowboys fan died the day that Greg Hardy suited up in a Cowboys uniform.
Oh, damn. That's going back.
I went out of my way to not watch. It's the first time in my life that I ever went out of my way to not watch a Cowboys game was when they played the Patriots that year. Took my kids to Kitty Acres or whatever that place is called in Austin with the little,
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like off Spicewood Springs?
The one out there. Yeah. The outdoor one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's there anymore, but we've been there. We went there when it was open. It's not there anymore, but yeah.
Took them out there, did anything but watch the game. And a little bit over the years, there have been moments where they've had me, but it's never, ever truly been the same. And I'm now, look, Jerry's going to outlive all of us.
He probably will.
Jerry's going to outlive all of us. So what are we doing? My expectations are at 0.00.
Yeah.
That I will ever So this isn't you're a fan of the Cincinnati Bengals. It's oh, well, we've got crappy ownership, but you kind of feel like something could happen. Like the Cleveland Indians, you wait around long enough, or the Chicago Cubs, eventually it will happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I have no faith, no belief that it's going to happen. And when the belief is gone, I don't know what we're supposed to do, but I saw that name today, Brian Schottenheimer. And I was just you'd be kidding me. No, you can't hire somebody that makes me want them to go back to Mike McCarthy.
Right. Yeah.
No, bring back Mike.
Yeah. Yep. No, you're right. You are right. And and then this Sunday, it's Washington and Philly. Thank you, Jared Goff, for that weird gift that I wasn't expecting.
You know what, man? I did not miss fantasy football this year.
No, I thought you were a much healthier person for not having fantasy because I felt like that was better for you.
And I did that for 35 consecutive years.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's your new lesson.
I don't ever want to feel like this. I'm in a bad mood right now.
Yeah, they'll do it. You can't. You and I have been saying it for years. Even if you stay in, can't give them your heart. Can't give them your heart. Liverpool's where your heart can go, but you can't give the Cowboys your heart. They haven't had my heart for a long time.
I need some unhappy here's what I need. I need the dudes out there that have been unhappy for 30 plus years to message me. How do you do it?
Yeah. What do you do? In fact, Catch, mine is right around the 30-year mark. Do you know, I can tell you the night that Jerry lost my heart. I can tell you the night I put my heart on the shelf and he never got it back. It's when I heard the name Barry Switzer. It's that long ago. The moment I heard that name, he didn't have my heart. Not since, I'm not saying I haven't been mad or upset. I'll bitch and moan, but truly have my heart? Nope. No, not when I heard that name. I'm like, okay, I know where we're headed. I know what path we're on here. And I'm willing to make the deal with the devil that I'm going to still be a fan, but you can't have my heart anymore, Jerry. Not now. Not now.
I'll tell you when they had my heart. When January 2008.
Patrick Creighton. Yeah. That's another one. And that was for a lot of fans. Post Cabo, yeah. If you had the heart, we're putting it over here. Done.
They've never had a team better than that team since.
Done. Oh, no, not even close. Not close. And 2014 is not close to that.
Not even remotely close.
That team was badass. And you're right. When that didn't happen, that probably stamped it in for a lot of people.
Because I know that in late, that was devastating. Dez, as much as Dez's drop and the Romo fumble against the Seahawks is haunting. Never felt I never thought, well, we lost the Super Bowl, or you know what I mean? It always felt like, well, we might make it to the NFC Championship game. It's not the same thing as I was convinced.
It's the team I thought of watching Detroit. When you watch a 1 seed with all that expectation, drop the ball at home, and especially when it's bad. I mean, the Cowboys didn't lose like that, but when you watch them, it's just a crushing thing. And the fan base, I was trying to imagine, Catch, can you imagine leaving that stadium? You're a Detroit fan. You had the 1 seed, climate controlled all the way through the Super Bowl. And then you had to walk out in 18-degree weather? and hope your car started
to a rookie quarterback, dude,
in Detroit. Yeah, and you lost to a rookie quarterback, and you had to drive home in frigid conditions after your team got beat like that.
Did you see what I called Jared Goff?
No.
I said Jared Goff. Like, that dude is Kirk Cousins' cousin.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. No, I saw that in the 10th thought. That is good. The Kirk Cousins cousin. That was good. That was good. All right, man. You ready to wrap?
I am.
All right. We've been through the ringer all the way around today. Started with Arch and ended with the Cowboys. Good Lord, what a show. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. Damn near 800 of you in the Specs chat as we get ready to close the door. Enjoy the championship game tonight. Again, no official OB watch party at TCH Social Austin, but if you want to head over to 183 and Anderson Mill, please be careful out on the roads tonight. They will be open tonight and have the game on if you want to go check them out. We'll put something together OB-wise for later on. I like Ketch's idea of that first Thursday of the basketball tournament. We'll talk to you tomorrow at noon for a Tuesday show. Everybody be safe out there. Stay warm.